All right. So I thought that what would be a good thing to talk about, or maybe not good thing to talk about, but something that I think would be motivational and a way for you to kind of put things into perspective is the car accident that I had. I thought maybe that might be a good story. So, what we want to do is you want to set an intention for what you're going to do while we're together. All right, we'll be together for about 30 minutes probably. And so, if you can make a decision that I want to do this right now, and then you put it in the chat and say, I'm going to do laundry, I'm going to wash my kitchen floor, I'm going to prepare dinner, I'm going to whatever it is that you're going to do. And then this way, while we're together, you're killing two birds at one stone. You're hanging out with me, you're getting some information, and also you're getting some work done. So I think that's a great way to spend this time. And it's a good idea to set an intention. So put it in the chat. This is what I'm doing. Because unless you do that, it's very easy for the time to just get sucked away from you and you didn't do anything. All right. So what I'm going to talk about right now while you're doing your thing is a car accident I was in. Okay, so it was 1989, I think. It might have been 1990 because the baby was already 15 months old at that point, and he was born in July of '89, and I had already been organized. I already got it together for 15 months because I was pregnant with him at the time. So you figure about maybe 2 years, I already had it together. And then I was in this car accident. Now, before that, I was an absolute wreck, a mess beyond mess. Like I tried really, really hard. I tried really hard, but I always ended up doing a lot of nothing. Doing a lot of nothing is where you really are working very hard. You're cleaning in this room, you're cleaning in that room, you're spending a lot of energy, you're spending a lot of time. But at the end of the day, there's nothing to show for it. And, it's like going in a car and taking a ride without a destination, without direction. You can use a lot of gas and spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, but actually go nowhere. I remember when I was married at the time, of course, and he would come home from work, and I was a stay-at-home mom. I took care of the kids in the house. That was my only job. And he'd come home, and the house would be a wreck. And he would say, "What did you do all day?" And I remember being so insulted with that. Now I look at it differently because when you know what to do and when to do it, it's really easy to look at somebody that doesn't know what to do and when to do it and say, what did you do all day? But being in those shoes, I understand you're like a deer in headlights. There's a lot to do. And a lot of times there's a lot of doing a lot of nothing. So I would say, I was busy all day. I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this. And it's true, I really did, but there was nothing to show for it. So I would have like laundry in the bathtub. And then for us to take a bath, we had to take the laundry out of the bath because the hampers were full. And downstairs where the washer and dryer were, there was mounds of pile of laundry there. And so what was I going to do? Now I have more laundry. So I thought, what a great idea. I'll put it in the bathtub and then I'll just shut the curtain on it and it'll look all clean. I'll just have to empty it and fill it back up. When we get to, we need to take a bath, we take it out. Like that's what it was like. Cleaning the table with a spatula and a hot rag. You get a hot sudsy rag and you put it on the table and you push a spatula. And that is the way I used to clean the table. Okay? Yes, very true. Sometimes I wouldn't even get out of bed. Like I would just stay in bed as long as I could, especially when the kids were little and they didn't care if I was nursing or something. I could just like figure it out because you get to a point where you just feel like, why bother? And it affects you. It affects your mental health. It affects your physical health. You get to a point where you don't want to take care of anything anymore. And yeah, it's pretty bad. And I know that if you're one of me, which you are, then you completely understand this. You understand it. Okay, so now I had gotten a book called Sidetracked Home Executives, and it was by Pam Young and Peggy Jones. I was running a children's church at the time. It was really not a children's church, sorry, a women's ministry at the time, like a little women's fellowship. And the reason I did that was because most women, they didn't get to actually like enjoy church. They were always with their kids. So, we'd be in the other room with the kids. So I said, why don't we do, an every other week women's ministry, and then we could all just let the kids chill. We can maybe get a babysitter, one of the younger kids, one of the teenagers or something from church could come and watch the kids in the other room while they play. Or if we can't get anybody, one of us, it's easy when a bunch of you know that there are kids, you can kind of tolerate noise, that kind of thing. So now this is another thing on a side note. People who are organizationally challenged are usually the ones that do all the volunteering. It doesn't mean that we don't know how to get things together. We need to have a rule, like a rule book. We need to have a plan. If we had a plan, and we could manage it. When I used to go by people's houses to help them, I'll give you one example. My niece, I went to her house to help her. She's like, the house is all over the place. I'm working till late every night. We got the 3 kids and my husband works late. Things are getting out of control. Can you come and help me? So I went to her house and I noticed that, we're going through her office area and stuff. I noticed she has this big binder. It's like a big fat ring binder. And I said, what's this? She said, oh, that's for the PTA. She was the president of the PTA. Yep. Most of us organizationally challenged people are those people. So I opened up her binder and it was beautiful, meticulous. She had a calendar in there. She had little Ziploc dividers in there. I said, Adrian, this is beautiful. She said, yeah. I said, well, why is it that you could be so on top of this? She said, oh, you should see me at work. And that's what it's like for everybody. I had one man say to me, I want my wife back, because when she had a child and she stayed home, she lost it. Why is that? Why is that? Because there's no rules to follow. There's no guiding, do this, do this, do this. There's nobody over us. There's nobody waiting for a deadline for us to have to get done. There's just this broad amount of things to get done, which we think I could do that later. I could do that later. And then on top of that, there's that feeling of overwhelm that comes over us, that there's so much to do. We end up doing a lot of nothing, like I said, or sometimes absolutely nothing. So where was I? So I'm a woman's coordinator, right? A women's church coordinator. We could figure out how to break things down when we need to. And so there I am. And on one of our very first meetings, might have been our first meeting, I raised my hand and I said, which I didn't have to raise my hand because, I was the coordinator, but whatever, but we learned to raise our hand. And I said, okay, listen, I have a confession to make. I'm a slob. I can't get it together. Dinner's always late. The house is always a wreck. I'm always late for everything. I'm embarrassed. It takes me weeks to get ready for anything, for if I have to have anybody to come over. And usually I'm a crazy lunatic at that time, screaming at everybody. I go to bed every night thinking I'm not going to live this way tomorrow. This is going to change. And every morning it just is the same. And guess what happened? One by one, these women that I've been at their house, they were amazing women. They were amazing. They had everything together. They were my heroes. One by one, they said, I'm the same way. I have the same problems. My house is a wreck too. I don't know what to do either. Almost all of them said that. I was so surprised. So I felt a little better that I wasn't alone. I kind of didn't believe it. So I said to one of them, I said, no, not you. We have church at your house like every couple of weeks we go to your house. She said, do you know what it takes me to get ready for that? Don't ever go in my bedroom. Don't ever open a closet. Don't help me in the kitchen. Like, holy smokes. So one woman who was, somebody that was at the church, at the time, she said, I just read a book called Sidetracked Home Executives, and I'm helping a friend. because this lady had it all together. I'm helping a friend with that. How about I take over the meetings for the first few and I'll teach from the book and from the Bible? I said, that's great. So I bought the book and I dug right in and I read the book. It's a really great book. If you haven't read it, you really should. Sidetracked Home Executives by Pam Young and Peggy Jones. It's so funny that there were times that my husband thought that I was crying because I was laughing so much. And now the thing about it is, though, it was written during a time that everybody was stay-at-home moms. It was written for women. It was written for stay-at-home moms. Times have really changed since then. I've been working this program for since 1989. So at this time, it's like 31 years, 35 years. God, what is that? Somebody do the math, because I have to think of how old my son is, but I forgot how old he is. He must be 35. Maybe he's 36. Could that be true? No, that can't be true. All right, anyway, no, it definitely can't. I don't know. All right, so somebody do the math for me. So that's how long I've been doing this. And as things went, things changed. I got a job outside the home. I went back to school. I had more babies. I had work, 2 jobs. Lots of things changed. And with the change came the revamping of the system. So anyway, let's get back to the car accident. All right. So now we buy a house in Pennsylvania. We actually built the house and we moved there. The baby was 15 months old. And then the other one was 5 years older than him. And then it was 2 years and 2 years. So it was 9, 11, 7, right? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So 9, 7, 5, and 15 months old, right? That's what we moved into. And I remember I've had it together for 2 years at that point. So we were living there quite a while. We moved in January, got into the accident in October. So what is that? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So we lived there for 9 months, okay? And at this time, the baby was 15 months old. I think we moved in there when he was about 6 months old. So now I get into this car accident, right? It was really, really bad. Like it was a Mack truck hauling a septic tank. And if you looked at the vehicle that I was in, it looked like somebody just had like a one of those big guns. Like it just got me. That's it. The rest of the truck was fine. It ripped off the whole wheel was ripped off on my side. The whole entire wheel well and everything. Everything was off there. Whatever that thing is called. That thing that you put your wheel on. That was off. So I had my kids in the car. Thank God nobody got hurt. It was just me. And it was a truck. I was in a pickup truck. So I was out of it. They told me that I was awake, but I don't remember anything. I had my chin and my head was wedged up between the steering wheel and the windshield. And the rest of me was crushed underneath where you put your feet, was crushed underneath there. They had to get the jaws of life to get me out of there. Just so happened, this is absolutely a miracle. It just so happened that, what do they call those people? Those people that do the emergency things, EMT, is that what they call them? One of those emergency people, right? That take care of, they're in ambulances and stuff. She happened to be passing by at that very time, coming from a special class on what to check for if somebody had a broken femur. And I happened to have a broken femur. And if it wasn't for her there, I would have bled to death because it wasn't a common training at the time. And, they were so busy doing what they had to do to get me the hell out of there and getting my kids that were now wandering off in the woods, back, that I definitely would have bled to death because, there's a main artery there in your femur. So she happened to stop by. She pulled over and she put the heel of her hand onto my femur and kept it there until they could, take care of the situation. She actually came to visit me in my house when I got home from the hospital. It was really, really nice to see her. I was really thankful to be able to thank her in person. So now I'm in the hospital. I was in there for 4 weeks. I had a broken jaw in several places. So I had my jaw wired. This shoulder was crushed the ball joint was crushed like a egg. My left hip was crushed like an egg, like the ball joint. My pelvis was broken in several different places. My right foot was completely crushed. Like, not the heel was pretty well bad, but like the whole thing. They said if there's any way you could crush a foot any worse, you did it. So I think that was it. I think that was the total amount of broken bones in me. And so, I was in bad shape. I was in really bad shape. When my husband came, I had the kids were in the hospital because they brought them to the hospital just to make sure. My one son had to get stitches. And so when they called my husband, they said, well, your wife's in the hospital, in this hospital, and your two kids are in one hospital, your other kid's in the other hospital. And my other daughter, who was not in the car, because she's in a different school, because I was picking them up from school, she was at the bus stop. So like, she was fine, but she went to a different school, so she wasn't in the car. So he said, where should I go? And they said, well, since we really don't know or think that your wife's going to make it, I think you might want to go there first. So of course that's where he went, because they really didn't think I was going to make it. My face was so swollen, it was beyond recognition. You could not tell who I was. The way he identified me was from my feet. I have really weird feet. I got toes that look like fingers. It's so weird. So he looks at my feet and he knew it was me. Otherwise, you didn't know it was me. So I really do believe that the first 3 days, I was in a coma for the first 3 days. And I really do believe that those first 3 days, people's prayers kept me alive. I really, really do, because they did not think I was going to make it. So I go home, right? After 4 weeks, I was in the hospital for a whole month. I go home and we decided to put a hospital bed in the living room because I had to be in a hospital bed. I was in traction. My left leg had, my femur, I didn't say that. My femur broke. So I have a metal bar in my leg and metal screws in my hip and other paraphernalia in my body. And so I had a metal bar that went through my knee. I don't know how they do that, but it doesn't hurt. I don't know how they do it. A metal bar through where my knee is, it was bent like that. And it was in traction. So I couldn't be in a regular bed. I had to be in a hospital bed. And so I said, well, don't put me in the bedroom, because then I'll be always alone. Like put me in the living room. We had the room that we had, it was called a great room. So it was really, really big, didn't take up any space, it was great. And so that's where I was, in the living room. And I couldn't get out of bed for quite a while. It was where I was stationed, right? And we had people that came to help. So my mother-in-law and father-in-law, who lived in Florida at the time, as soon as they found out about it, they came up. So, well, actually, they came up shortly before I came home. So, oh, no, I'm wrong about that. They came up as soon as they found out about it, and then they took care of the kids, because the kids were all scattered. My girlfriend had one of them, my other girlfriend had another one of them, and my niece had another one of them, so they were all scattered. So when they came up, the kids came home, and that's where they were. Now, this is what I want to ask you. What in God's name do you think it would have been like for me if it was 15 months prior? If it was like the 2 years prior, when I was a total disaster and you had to empty out my bathtub to get laundry, what do you think? They might have even taken my kids away. I think that's ridiculous that freaking people do that. We could talk about that another time. But who the hell knows? First of all, let's pretend that would never have happened. Let's pretend that, right? Do you know how easy it was for these people when they came there? Everything was in its place. There was no overdo of anything, overwhelm of anything. Dishes were put away. Kitchen was clean. Living room was clean. All the kids' clothes were washed in their drawers. Do you know how easy it was for these people to come and pack up a little bag for each of these kids? And then how great it was for my mother-in-law when she came to just set herself up in the guest room and get the kids all coordinated. It was a dream. It would have been a freaking nightmare if it was before that. Like, I could cry thinking about it. It would have been a nightmare. So another thing that we had going on then was people would come and bring dinner. Like we had from the church that I belonged to, even though had moved to Pennsylvania and it was a good hour and a half. It was an hour and a half from that my old church. I lived in a community. It was like a gated community. It was called Conestoga Lakes in Milford, Pennsylvania, although it was technically Dingman's Ferry, Pennsylvania. Um, it was an amazing community of people. Now, I had been volunteering there, so people really knew me. I was only there for 2 years, but I took over the children's coordinating. You know, they had it was like they had a little club with a pool, and they did things for the kids. So they had stuff for Easter, they had stuff for Halloween, they had stuff for summer coordinated things. And I took over the children's coordinating thing, you know, like for the parties that we'd have and the barn things, you know, the hay rides and all that crap. So people knew me. I knew people. So when they found out about it, and the reason I say it like that is because I lived in this house. This is the house I lived. I sold this house to my son, and that's where I am right now. But I lived in this house for 16 years. There was not one person I had to say goodbye to. I didn't know any neighbor. So that's why I mean, like, people knew me because I don't generally get to know people unless I absolutely have to. So there I am. Everybody, you know, a lot of people knew me. And so what they did was they volunteered. I could take the kids on this day. I could take the kids on that day. I'll bring meals every Friday. I'll bring meals every Thursday. And then people down at church, they did the same thing. It was like somebody brought food on a specific day so that there was, I mean, it's a wonderful thing, right? It was a really, really wonderful thing. But, you know, like, what do? Do you think they like drop it off on the front steps and run? No, they come in, don't they? They come in. So it was nice. They got to come in, they put it where it goes. We had a freezer. Sometimes it would go in the freezer. It was a really great situation for in the event of a really horrible situation. I haven't even mentioned yet what it would have been like for my kids at that time, because let me tell you, it was hard for them. They didn't know which way was up. They didn't know what was going on. They were away from me for a whole month. I wouldn't let them come visit me because I looked really bad and I didn't want them to see me that way. Probably in retrospect, I should have let them come, but at the time, I just couldn't. Plus, you know, in the beginning, they had me like heavily on morphine, which, God, I put a stop to that after I started hallucinating. But, you know, so I just didn't want them around. And so there was that. What would it have been like for them? What would it have been like for my husband at the time? That not only would he have to deal with all of these kids, that what am I going to do with them? Let's coordinate this. He was still working. And this woman that, all right, she isn't going to die. That's great. If the place was a wreck, right? So I thank God for that all the time, that that it happened to me. I mean, if it was going to happen to me, thank God it happened to me later. You know, life happens, doesn't it? Life happens. And, you know, why would we ever want to put ourselves in a position where life is going to happen at a time when um, it would take you out beyond take you out. Like, we could have even, who knows, cost me my marriage, cost me my children. Definitely would have been the most embarrassing situation. And I would not have been a decent person to those people that wanted to help me. They would have had to do so much work. You know, I have a friend whose husband passed away. He had cancer and they lived in a real disaster. You know, like it was embarrassing to come in. There's no way he could have come home from the hospital to stay there, because it was just that big of a disaster to have those people, EMTs, are they called? Why can't I think of that word? They could not have had them carry him in, bring him into a bedroom, and there was no way for her to be able to get this taken care of before then. You know, he did pass away, and the amount of guilt that this woman had and has, but you know, she's over it. She's forgiven herself, and you know, it is what it is. Like, you know, we can't help what has happened, and we do have to let it go and get on. But you know, she was like, how did I allow this to happen? You know, why did I let this happen? I you know, we have no guarantees in life, and what could have been a nice a nicer ending for this man. It wasn't, because he couldn't come home. He couldn't come home. There was, you know, he, it was okay for him to stay where he was, but he would have been able to go home, but he couldn't. And then all of the guilt that you have on top of that of, we could have done that, we could have done this, all the things that we could have done, all the things that we wanted to do, but we couldn't because the house was a wreck. It steals way too much from us. It does. It steals way too much from us. And the amount of, oh my God, freedom that you have when you get it together, it's a domino effect that I can't even explain to you. If there's anybody on here that has taken TTU and you want to just give a couple of dots, a couple of bullet points of what it gave back to you, that would be great. Because what I'm doing is I'm offering Tidy Tutor University. It is available only a short time during the year. I'll probably close it out. I don't know, because I'm going to Florida. Listen to me. I'll probably close it out on, maybe on Friday the 7th, maybe. I don't know. But you know that the clutter magnet thing, that's ending tomorrow. I mean, you can get it, you can have it. It's only $27. I just had to figure out a way that I could offer it to you so that you could have it always at the most reasonable price possible. And I just think that it's a bargain. You'll always have it. And so that's coming down in the area that it is now. Okay. And so then if you want it after that, it's all organized, all great. I could show you if you want what it looks like. And so there's that. So that's coming down tomorrow. We won't have it available anymore. But Tidy Tutor University, it's my course. It's my signature course. I'm in there with you the whole 9 yards. We have a support group that you get along with it. We meet once a week. Plus we have a Facebook group. We've got support of all the members. And so there's that. So if you want to find out more about it, it's thetidytutor.com/TTU. There's all details on there. It's $497. It's broken up into 4 payments. If you want to do that, I think it's like $137 or something like that for 4 payments. It's worth its weight in gold, honestly, it is. And the amount of love that I give you is priceless. So I think that's that. I said we'd be here for about 30 minutes, and we are. I don't see not one comment in our Facebook group. And I don't know if we have any comments in the live group. Oh, I think we do. Let's see. All right. It says, Pat's on Zoom. I emptied my dishwasher in the last session. Oh, because we met the last time. We're going to meet again at 7 p.m. Okay. I emptied up the dishwasher in the last session. And since then, I downloaded all the manual sections for the challenge and watched a few videos. Yeah, because you get printouts. Watch a few of the videos I hadn't seen before. Now I'll get back to cleaning out my refrigerator, which I started yesterday. Good for you. Robert said, put some robot claw kits together. Robert is literally a rocket scientist. I'm not kidding. So he does these fun things with, like, you remember a robot from Lost in Space? Well, he makes their arms. People like them. All right, so Robert said, you will get your life back if you take TTU. Do it. It's the best decision you could make. Yeah, I agree. Wait, you know what? There's one other thing about the car accident story that I didn't mention. My recovery, it was long and brutal, okay? It was long and it was brutal. I was never without pain, okay? Never. I believed God that I would be without pain. They told me I'd never walk without pain, that I'd always need a wheelchair, always need a brace. There was this hideous brace I used to have to wear. And it was true. If I went to a theme park or I went to a mall, I had to bring a wheelchair because at a certain point I just couldn't do it anymore. And so what do you think that would have been like for me? You know how easy it was? Do you know how easy it was for me to manage my life? Like that house never got to be a mess. You would think, oh no, 4 kids under the age of 10, husband worked, you're in a wheelchair, you're in a hospital bed. Not a day was that house a mess, because we're not a mess because of our circumstances. We're a mess because of our habits. There are people living in this world with a lot worse circumstances than I had even then. And definitely a lot worse circumstances than whoever you are. Whoever we are, we can always find somebody else that has worse circumstances. Like maybe you're in a lot of pain a lot. And yeah, that really sucks. Maybe there's somebody else that's in a lot of pain a lot and they have a disabled child, right? Maybe there's somebody that has a disabled child and they work full time and they have 2 other kids. There's always somebody that's got something else that we could look at and say, holy mackerel, I thought I was bad. Am I right? Every single organizationally gifted person or every single person that has learned how to be organizationally gifted do not live in a mess because of their circumstances. I have a family member. Her son is, I think he's like 30 now, maybe a little older than that. He's almost the same age as my son George, and my son George is older than that. And he was born, he got an inoculation that did not go well. And when he was a baby, measles, mumps, and no, not that one, the pertussin one. At one point, it was just not good, and so it affected him to the point where he has to be in a wheelchair. He really doesn't communicate very well. He can't feed himself, and they live like you can go over there any day, any day, any day. It's because it really is a learned skill. It really is a learned skill. And it's not done in a way that is like, oh my God, I've been cleaning all day. These people don't clean all day. I don't clean all day. My house is always clean, always. Use my bathroom. Come in anytime. Open up my refrigerator. What do you want? Go ahead, go for it. Because it's a system. It's a system that if you work it, it works. And you got so much time to live your life, to take a nap, to make your dreams come true, to have family over. Okay, so that's that. All right, I'm going to sign out now and I'll see you at 7. Okay?